Good afternoon, members. It is now 1:10 p.m. Reconvening full City Council. We are on page 11 of our agenda, third reading measures. Noting that Bill 20 CD2 is moved to the end of the calendar. We're now at the bottom of page 18 from the Committee on Housing, Sustainability and Health. Council Member Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I move that Committee Report 253, Resolution 23-162, CD1 be recommitted to the Committee on Housing, Sustainability and Health.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Council Member Wire for the explanation.
And this is initiating amendments to the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu relating to the establishment of a climate resiliency fund.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have one in-person testifier.
Okay, please proceed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair, Council members. Natalie Wassa for the record. I'm so glad to hear this is being recommitted. I'm not sure what the reason is, but I did submit written testimony, and you could see from that we have a whole bunch of already special funds that lapse, and so that money is not able to be used for anything else. In addition, setting aside a percentage of our real property taxes chips away at our city funding, the foundation, real property taxes, and it makes budgeting for council members less flexible going down the road. So I oppose this. It's just not good fiscal policy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, we have an online testifier.
Good afternoon, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiana, and members of the council. My name is Micah Munikanta. I'm from the Ulupono Initiative, testifying in support of this measure. We support dedicated resources for the city's climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts. We believe that this effort were to be accepted by the people of Honolulu, the city would be able to coordinate and carry out impactful climate investments to build a more sustainable and resilient future. We also believe that with the guidance and expertise of OCCSR, that this fund could be very well utilized in the city in our future investments. Thank you very much, Chair.
Appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have anybody else wishing to testify?
Yes, we have one more person online standing by.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha, City Council. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. Climate resiliency is something that is necessary to address. And according to the U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit from the federal government, toolkit.climate.gov, communities, businesses, individuals are taking action to document their vulnerabilities and build resilience to climate-related impacts. And according to the case studies at this federal level, you can browse the maps from this website, the toolkit, to see what kind of stories are going on about climate-related resiliency initiatives. So if at the federal level this is being supported, I think here also at the county level is something we should appropriate funds for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifiers, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola and Councilmember Cortero on the motion to recommit.
Thank you, Chair. Just thank you for clarifying that, and thank you for the introducer and for the conversation. So I'm glad it's getting recommitted. I'm hoping that the conversations will lead us into maybe a better space. One of the concerns that I had and why I'm glad that we're recommitting it is because we do have Office of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resiliency, and that was established in 2016. They have 12 full-time positions, a budget of $1.93 million, and just this year, the administration budgeted $31.7 million towards climate change initiatives. So I think as a council and as an administration, we're taking it seriously. So my concern again was that we just put on the ballot just last year to change the fund for affordable housing and for the clean water natural land. So I really want us to see if we can evaluate that. You know, I appreciate Director Tashner, but we have to quickly spend down funds that are put in the Clean Water Natural Land Fund. And she's oftentimes, you know, trying to look for projects. So I just know that in a tight city budget, we don't want any funds sitting around as we have so many needs within the city. So I wanted us to be really mindful moving forward that we can put money to use right away. On the hearts and minds of everyone, of course, is the needs of the people in Maui and how they needed immediate relief, and maybe even an emergency fund or something that can be immediately spent down when we have things like water mains blow up or roads fall into the ocean where we can access it right away, possibly. But I do think we need to be mindful that the other two funds frequently balloon up because in a year of collecting property taxes, we quickly have to try to spend it down. So thank you for the recommittal and in support.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to ask for the clarification of what our motion was, but I understand it's a recommittal. In support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to recommit? Seeing none, any objections or reservations to recommittal? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 253 and Resolution 23-162 CD1 has been recommitted to the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health. Thank you, members. Going to the top of page 12, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I move that Committee Report 251 be adopted and Bill 38 CD2 as amended past third reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
Relating to concessions.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Being no discussion, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 251 has been adopted and Bill 38 CD2 has passed third reading. Now to the top of page 13, first reading measures. Vice Chair Kiaina.
I move that Resolution 23-129 pass first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Kiaina for the explanation.
This resolution initiates amendments to the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu, 1973, amended 2017 edition, as amended relating to housing.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have testifiers?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Ms. Iwasa in person.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you, Natalie Wassa, for the record. Just some comments on this. This would be a huge change to our charter. Anybody who read it would understand that. The impetus is trying to consolidate all of our housing, affordable housing, homeless issues into one department, and I understand that intent. My question is, how much would this reorganization cost? Because as I recall, the last time we added a department was land department, and that also was to consolidate all the properties under one department. And we were told that it would not grow, that there would be the people who are already in place would be in the new department. Well, now we are way above what that initial employee setup was. So that is my main concern. I also just have a request. The resolution does mention the 2016 Charter Commission report, and that report, they used to have a website and it was very easy to find all the documents. That website is gone. So if somebody could put that back up so that the public could easily access those documents, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifiers, Mr. Clerk?
Chair, briefly for the testifier.
Oh, sure. Councilmember Tupola.
Just real quick, Ms. Iwasa, thank you for always being up on everything. So if you want to look through Council Communication 248, I listed it with the history behind all of the changes in past charters all the way back to like the 1990s. I think you would appreciate this. It also outlines the exact FTEs. So how many are existing, how many would transfer, and how many would be new, and what the total would look like. It also has a diagram, a graph, a grid of what the reorganization would look like, which wouldn't actually include more money, but it would just be aligning pieces of some existing positions, some transferring, and then 2 new ones. But take a look at it. I think this would help you. Thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, anybody else wishing to testify?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. I do note that Denise Iseri Matsubara, Executive Director, Office of Housing, is present. Oh, there you are. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. Aloha, Chair, Committee, Council members. My name is Denise Iseri Matsubara, and I'm with the Office of Housing. This resolution proposes to reorganize the housing functions and programs under an expanded version of the Department of Community Services. While we agree with the concept of consolidating and centralizing the city's housing functions under one department, we cannot support this resolution at this time as it's premature. The mayor had announced earlier this year during his State of the City address that he would be exercising his authority under the charter to reorganize his administration. I officially joined the city several weeks after that, and by the summer, we had formed a working group to commence working on this very topic. The group looked through the roles and responsibilities of the various departments involved in housing and is currently exploring reorganization options. In addition to the various city department heads, the working group is comprised of the City Council's Housing Committee Chair, the Chief of Staff of the Vice Chair of this body, given her experience in DCS, several executives from the development community, and the principal of a private human resources consulting firm. The group meets regularly and is going to be working on recommendations for the mayor to consider before the end of this year. So as the former testifier just said, this is going to be a huge undertaking. It's going to involve a lot of time, resources, because there will be many, many implications, including technological, fiscal, legal, collective bargaining implications that need to be considered. I reviewed the plan, and there's a lot of elements. There was a lot of work done, so we really appreciate that. We may use some of those elements, and we're going to consider them. But, expediting housing, if we really want to do that, the biggest impact that we can make is to look at our policies, our procedures, and our processes now that are currently under our control. A professional consultant will likely be necessary to perform a comprehensive analysis as well as assist with the transition plan and actual implementation. So in conclusion, the administration shares the council's urgency on this matter, and while we agree with the need to consolidate, we do not support this resolution and respectfully request that this council let the office complete its efforts with the recently established working group. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the director? Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. I generally support consolidation of the city's housing-related functions, including, in particular, the management of all housing property assets, the management of all funding set aside for housing construction, renovation, and acquisition, and the management of all housing vouchers and rental subsidies. Director, I do appreciate your update on the working group and what your time frame is like. My question is, separate from a charter amendment, is there any administrative authority by the mayor to be able to implement your recommendations that deal with consolidation of all of the functions that's being proposed in this resolution?
So to answer your question, the mayor is exercising his authority under Section 4-202 under the charter. I believe also any council-initiated charter amendment also requires the mayor's approval in the upcoming election year.
In summary, the answer is yes. We need not have to initiate a charter amendment. You're able to do it under the authority you just cited. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
So administratively, you are able to stand up a consolidated mechanism to implement what the working group is working on. I just want to make sure.
I believe that's correct.
And so one of the reasons, apart from the fact that you believe it's just premature for us to be putting this question forward, is also because you're doing that, should this measure move forward, just causing confusion for the public perhaps to be entertaining a question that you're already exploring.
That could be one of the outcomes.
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to better understand what can be done short of, without this resolution moving forward. And I guess I just want to make sure that you had all of the authorities available for you to, number one, crystallize what you're trying to achieve, and of course, in preparation for the budget, to allocate all the necessary resources to implement your vision.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. Aloha. Thank you for being here. So I actually think that this can move concurrently. And I'm not saying that this passes and it gets on the ballot and then you guys do your thing and then somehow it's conflicting. I'm not saying that at all. I think that the issue is much older than when you came into the position you're in, which was 3 years ago. We sat with the administration and we told them that this was an issue. So I'm glad that it's finally becoming this year a priority, a consultant, and some forward motion. However, I do believe that having a public conversation about it, allowing other people to give insight, maybe in a committee hearing, maybe the chair holds it, but it allows us to converse, to bring an opinion on this, can only help. I am aware that you guys have the working group, and I'm aware of who's in the working group, and I think that's great. Is that everyone that has opinions? I don't think so. Would more opinions hurt us? Probably not. I think hearing what the stance is of maybe some of the council members would even help, because we can't all be in the meeting, right? Only some of us can be in it. So that would give us a chance also to share our thoughts with you without breaking sunshine law, without being in the working group. So I'm asking that this at least be heard in committee so that those thoughts can be used as part of what you guys use moving forward. And I think that that's where we can find some consensus, is if we're able to have open public conversations, have lots of the council members weigh in, have you guys take in some of these thoughts so that it can be incorporated into the working group. So in no pass am I trying to flex on the administration or trying to combat what you guys are doing. I think we're moving in the same direction. I filed the council communication to show all the historical changes that have happened to the charter, which actually put all of these pieces into different places. Love to hear what's coming out of the working group. And so if that can be shared in an open forum so that it can be a public conversation, I think it's going to be a win-win all around. I feel like at the end of the day, it is on the administration, but guess who else it's on? All of us. People constantly come to us saying, why can't the city do more? We can't all take a hit as private developers. You guys need to pull more weight. So I think it's a way for us to also hold ourselves accountable to say, hey, we're all working at this. During this hearing, we're going to start to give our feedback, and hopefully the administration can start to incorporate that from the people that we hear from the projects that are in our communities, and some of them that had been vacant for years. And the reason why is because the acquisition arm was not in the policy-making arm. The policy-making arm was not where the funding was. So hopefully if those pieces come together, we don't acquire parcels, properties, or buildings and then let it sit vacant because the next part of the administration is still deciding if they have the funding for it. So I'm happy you guys are moving forward, and I just wanted to make clear that I hope we can still have a conversation in committee about this so that we can share more of our thoughts moving forward about what would help us in the city to be major players in helping local families be able to live here for generations to come.
Thank you for your feedback, Councilmember Tupola. It appears we want the same things, so we'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the director members? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Just to reiterate, on Council Communication 248, it's about a 13-page document, and this came out of the 2017 Permitted Interaction Group that's similar to what you did with the Department of Human Resources, and you went through an audit and you pulled things out of the audit. This was years ago that it happened, that they had suggested that things be consolidated, streamlined, so nothing new. I met with multiple different departments to get their views on things and then put something forward, because I figured we can't just sit here and keep pounding away at the administration. If we don't like what's going on, then we should propose and then start from there, just starting a conversation. So it is proposing that a second deputy of housing be created in DCS. And the reason why I said that is because even in the purchase of Waikiki Vista, once it was purchased, they still turned to DCS and said, hey, what funding do we have to make this go? So because a lot of our funding is allocated into that department, that's why the Permitted Interaction Group had suggested the second housing deputy be put under there. But again, open to other thoughts. Definitely think there's other ways to do it, but we need to put the policymaker with the money to make housing decisions. We need to have our private activity bonds fully vetted as far as having a full staff to do compliance so that we can use the full amount of what we're given so that we're able to provide financing. We want more 30% AMI housing, but we can't get there if we don't become major financiers and players in making sure that this gets expedited. So thank you for listing it on the agenda, and hopefully in committee we can flesh this out. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina? Councilmember Okimoto?
No vote, please.
Councilmember Say? No. Councilmember Talba?
No.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
No.
Chair Waters?
Reservations.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 ayes, 4 noes.
Resolution 23-129 has passed first reading. Vice Chair Kia Aina. Excuse me. Oh, we need 6 votes. That's right. Pardon me, we need 6 votes to put a charter on the amendment. The vote was 5 ayes, 4 noes. Resolution failed. Moving to the bottom of page 13, Vice Chair Kia Aina.
I move that first reading bills listed on pages 13 to 16 of the agenda pass first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Kia Aina for the explanation.
Bill 47 relating to recycling. Bill 48 relating to real property taxation. Bill 49 relating to shopping carts. Bill 50 relating to the Transit-Oriented Development Special District. Bill 51 relating to the rezoning of land situated at Halawa, Oahu, Hawaii. Bill 52 relating to large dwellings. Bill 53 relating to registration requirements for bed and breakfast homes and transient vacation units.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. It's moved and seconded and explained. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered testifiers?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Ms. Iwasa on several of the items.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, so for clarification, are we testifying on each one individually or all at once?
You can testify all at once, but if you can, just mention the bill that you're going to speak on first, and then move on to the next bill.
Okay. With respect to Bill 47, this bill would change the requirements for what is considered recyclable materials and require the city to pick up compostable materials such as takeout containers, food packaging, and that type of material. My question is, you know, when people throw these items out, they have food in them. They have food stuck to them. And so is the intent that then the recycling system would have this food material on it? Because people aren't going to wash their paper plates. They're not going to wash their, you know, plastic containers, that kind of thing. So that's just a question I have for you. And if not, then how do we go about recycling those types of items? It's just several questions I have. With respect to Bill 48, this bill would put a cap of no more than 2% on real property taxes for property owners who are 65 or above. And so, you know, I just simply oppose all caps because, well, especially, you know, when they're age-driven, because there's no, you can't predict somebody's income based on age. If you're going to do it by geography, you can probably do it that way, although I don't know if that's legal. But 2% in any case is too low. And, you've been talking about rehauling our real property tax system, and still there's no permitted interaction group that's been formed. There's no special committee. You talk about all these things trying to help other taxpayers, and all I see time and time again is trying to help people who already own homes. So I oppose that bill. The next one is Bill 49 related to shopping carts, banning them on public property. Oh, gosh, this is clearly intended for the homeless, and I'm surprised ACLU isn't here, but I wanted to let you know that not everybody who has a shopping cart in public property is being a nuisance. For example, in Kaiser High School, Foodland years ago donated a shopping cart to the tennis team so that they could pick up their tennis balls. If this were to become law, they wouldn't be allowed to use that shopping cart. Now, I don't think that's the intent here, which means that we would have selective enforcement. That is not good public policy. I oppose that bill. Bill 52 with respect to monster homes. Okay, so this one, just comments again, increases the fines, $25,000 initial plus $10,000 per day for providing incorrect information to DPP on the type of home that's going to be built on certain properties. And so I think this is a better answer to trying to regulate our monster homes than Bill 44, which dealt with the false statements. But I ask that you get information from DPP regarding the amount of fines that have been waived. Under the prior administration, it was just routine. They would waive 90 to 95% of fines, and when you do that, they don't have the impact that they're intended to have. So I was told that they don't do that as much, but I'm still kind of curious how much it's done. I think that's the last one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Ms. Iwasa? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers on first reading measures?
Mr. Chair, we have one person standing by remotely.
Oh, questions for Ms. Iwasa?
Actually, I just quickly,
Sure.
if I may, and actually more of a comment to just to explain and then see if it changes your position. So in terms of the recycling bill, right, relating to composting, so the ordinance has already been amended to require food waste in addition to green waste, which can take now. And I think that would take effect in January, if I remember correctly. And so by adding the manufactured compostables, that would mean, your takeout plate that's compostable that has the food in it can just go into the green bin with your yard cuttings. And so I don't know if that informs your position or if you have any feedback on that, but just wanted to answer your question. So it could include food.
Okay, so, I will need to look at that change. I didn't know that particular, that food waste was now allowed. I had opposed that. But, I've taken the tour and I've watched them, and they have to sort through all that stuff. I mean, it's manual labor. And so I'm wondering what the people who do that, what are their thoughts on this? I mean, can you imagine trying to sort through all that stuff? And not that I am opposed to recycling. I recycle a lot of stuff myself, but my concern is how this would be implemented. And I'll take a look on that further. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Iwasa? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, you said there was another testifier?
Yes, sir, remotely.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha, City Council. I was wondering, did you call the housing testimony, the testifiers? Because
yes,
I was wondering if I got skipped.
Yes, we're done.
Okay.
We're on the bottom of page 13 through 16.
So Bill 47. Okay. I'm going to testify in strong support of Bill 47 relating to recycling. So green waste is composted on Oahu to make soil products. It is sold by the name of Menehune Magic in garden shops across the island, or can be bought directly from Hawaiian Earth Recycling. All of the recyclables collected in the blue bin are sold by RRR Services to the mainland or foreign countries. The company also sells glass to manufacturers in the United States. Aluminum is sold to manufacturers in Korea, and the U.S. plastics number 1 and number 2 are sold to markets in Indonesia and Malaysia. The U.S. fiber products, such as corrugated cardboard, newspaper, and office paper, are sold to manufacturers in Taiwan, Vietnam, China, and Indonesia, Thailand, and Korea. So to keep waste out of the landfill, the state has banned plastic bags and disposable foodware.
Time's up on Bill 47.
Okay.
Do you have any other first reading measures you wanted to testify on?
No, that was all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers on first reading measures on page 13 through 16?
No, Mr. Chair, we have no further testifiers.
Thank you very much. Members, we're in discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, we can take the vote en masse unless there are any objections. Objections means a no vote. If there's a no vote on any of the measures, I will take that out of order. Any objections or reservations on any of the first reading matters? Seeing none, noting no objections or reservations, the first reading bills listed on pages 13 through 16 of the agenda has passed first reading. Thank you, members. Moving to the top of page 17 from the Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 230 and Resolution 23-170 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this request of the Department of Human Resources submit an annual report detailing long-term position vacancies.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have one person standing by remotely.
Okay, please proceed.
Actually, I'm so sorry. Is it too late to go back to the first readings?
Yes, I apologize.
Oh,
We're on
okay.
page 17, Resolution 23-170.
Okay. Then I'm not going to testify. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Noting no discussion, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 230 and Resolution 23-170 has been adopted. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 231 and Resolution 23-171 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this urges the City Administration to establish, in consultation with the public employee unions, a formal policy for the abolishment of city positions.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair, and support. In June 2023, the Office of the Auditor found that there are 2,458 vacancies in the city. It also found that it takes 139 days to fill one position. Director Miyazaki's improvements are very notable, and we're grateful that they're doing briefings on how to do incentives. We need to be doing much more to fill these vacancies, seeing as though 400 of these are uniformed officers, police, as well as EMS. Additionally, DFM has 365 vacancies, DPR 191, DPP 111, and as of February this year. The high number of vacancies within all city departments significantly affects all of our constituents because this means that the departments are not able to fully operate, and we frequently have to say, sorry, we're short-staffed. It affects public safety, parks, road maintenance, rivers, streams, and housing. We need to do something immediately address the number of vacant positions, and our city staff deserves to be paid equitably. In order for us to do this, we need every department who I do believe is already submitting their first round of budgets to the administration to put in a line item for incentives. If there are departments such as ocean safety and I believe fire who don't have vacancies, then they don't need to, but every other department has some form of vacancies and it's usually within the hundreds. So I think the report that's been asked for in a prior measure is going to be helpful to us, but I think every department has their own jurisdiction and authority right now that they can do incentives. So build it into your budget. Tell us how you're going to pay your people more equitably so that we can get more competitive salaries out there, and let's fill those positions because it's an old topic of conversation already. So I think that this resolution is great. I do think that there's already a lot of mechanisms for them to start, and I would love to see more of this in the upcoming budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Councilmember Say.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do support these measures, but I would also like to state for the record, as far as my personal thoughts, that instead of just looking at it on a legislative auditor's recommendations, like I said earlier before, the past 2 years, we should be looking at what we have presently on the books in regards to the Hawaii revised statute. I think here at the council, we forget that we follow the Chapter 76, 77, which is our civil service laws, and also Chapter 89, which is collective bargaining, which some of these recommendations may be in conflict. And that is why we can't move ahead until the state laws are amended or repealed to address all 4 counties' concerns. The other approach could be, like what this governor has done, is that he could do a governor's proclamation and having all 4 counties come together to decide, are there ways of improving Chapter 76, 77, once more our civil service laws, which deals with the MQs, minimum qualifications, which deals with the SR, salary ranges. But I truly feel that if we really want to fill those particular vacant positions that was eloquently stated by the council member from the west side, you've got to look at it from a personal contract approach, which may be in conflict with our civil service laws. Because with a personal contract provision, you'll be able to hire the best and the brightest in the market that we're dealing with today in regards to having to find new employees who are qualified that will be competing with the private sector, the state government, and also the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 231 and Resolution 23-171 has been adopted. Now to the top of page 18, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 232 and Resolution 23-172 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this urges the city administration to consolidate the city's 4 standalone unlinked database systems that are used for the hiring, onboarding, and separation of city personnel.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you, members. We're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 232 and Resolution 23-172 has been adopted. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 233 and Resolution 23-173 CD1 as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this urges the Hawaii State Legislature to adopt legislation to allow the city to provide incentives and increase salaries for hard-to-fill positions.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you, members. We're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations?
Reservations.
Reservations for Mr. Wire? Thank you. Noted the reservations of Councilmember Wire, CR 233 and Resolution 23-173, CD1 has been adopted. Now to the top of page 19 from the Committee on Zoning, Councilmember Say.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that Committee Report 238, Resolution 23-178, Committee Draft 1, as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
It's granting a special management area use permit to allow the construction of a new single-family dwelling unit and other improvements at tax map key 5-001:077 in the Malay Kahana area.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members who are in discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say?
Aye.
Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 238 and Resolution 23-178, CD1, has been adopted. Councilmember Say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that committee report number 239 and resolution 23-181, committee draft 1 as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
Is granting a special management area use permit to allow the construction of 2 new accessory farm dwellings at tax map key 6-8-003:045 in Mokuleia.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members who are in discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say?
Aye.
Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 239 and Resolution 23-181, CD1, has been adopted. Moving to the top of page 20, Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 240 and resolution 23-183, committee draft 1 as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
It's amending the resolution 20-188, committee draft 1 as amended by resolution 22-164, committee draft 1 to provide an exemption from certain park dedication requirements for the Halava View Apartments Affordable Housing Project developed under pursuant to Section 201H-38 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion.
Chair.
Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. First off, my IA neighborhood board did not have the opportunity to meet last month, but with the amount of discussion and openness that the Halava View and their I forgot what they're called, but the people that represent them, Arm Towel, has provided to the IA neighborhood board and the explanations that they provided, I do feel comfortable supporting it, although I guess I do want to give an opportunity for the IA neighborhood board to hear about it too before we do vote on it. But I feel conflicted a little bit because it's very understandable as to why the plans that they laid out in the very beginning didn't pan out. If we do pass this today, I do feel that I, as the council member of the district, would be able to support the project to the neighborhood board as well. But I do feel conflicted, but because my neighborhood board didn't get to meet last month, but I very much support allowing this exemption for the applicant.
Thank you very much. Members, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, in support of Councilmember Cordero, she's correct because this particular project came before the council in 2020, 3 years ago. And they had thought that the dedication, as far as the park dedication requirements, were met. But as they went through the permitting process, planning process, a lot of the properties that they thought could be dedicated as park could not. And that's why they're coming back to see that we grant them the exemption on some of the park dedication ordinance, which is primarily the exemptions from those 60% AMI and below, the affordables. For the market, it's going to be they're going to be assessed the park dedication fee. So it's a fair, response to what they're trying to do, that we are trying to push for more affordable housing. And they are asking for the 201H exemption and waivers from all of our county fees. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to just say that maybe next time around, if you don't mind, for the zoning committee, all 201Hs, we should really try to find out what is the cost to our county government departments also, just to show good faith that we have committed ourselves to affordable housing. A lot of times the optics is not like what is being said. And in closing, I just feel kind of disappointed that nobody has broached the issue in the past, that when you have affordables, 60% and below, they don't even pay real property tax, these projects. And that's how they lock it in for the rent. Think about it. We are committing a huge amount of money that's supposed to come to the city coffers that we're providing for affordable housing, for renters who do not see their rent increases based on a very minimal increase in real property tax in the future. So in closing, you know, these laws that we have on the books are excellent, but how do we educate the general populace? Like how we are always criticized that everything we do is just for the market, and that's not true. We are trying our best. So in closing, I do support the council member from the district that she has some concerns because maybe they did not go to the neighborhood boards or to the community associations. And I think for myself, I've been telling a lot of these organizations, you have to go and talk story with all the residents. So in closing, in strong support of this measure.
Thank you very much. Members, any further discussion? Councilmember Cordero.
So first off, I understand that that timing is of the interest for the applicant because of permits and whatnot. However, I do feel like I would like to allow my community to hear this from, especially the IA Neighborhood Board. They are presenting on Monday, this upcoming Monday, and just to explain themselves well. So I don't know if this is warranted, but to request for deferral.
Are you making a motion? Wow, okay. Brief recess. Okay, thank you, members. We will reconvene. Councilmember Cordero.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to postpone this Resolution 23-183 CD1 to the next scheduled council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have to take testimony on this? Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, I believe you already took testimony. Yeah?
A testimony on the motion to postpone? No? Okay, we're in discussion. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, members, for being open to hearing this resolution next month again. I just once again would like the opportunity for my community to hear the exemption amendment and amendments and be briefed again. Since 2020, we've had two or so new neighborhood board elections and a new body on the board as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. We did check with the lawyers, and the postponement will not affect the 201H time deadline. We had, as mentioned by Councilmember Say, we already passed this previously. This is just amending it, and that will not affect the viability of the project. Any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections or reservations on the motion to postpone? Seeing none, so ordered. We will set Resolution 23-183 CD1 at the next full council meeting. Moving to the bottom of page 20, Councilmember Say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that committee report number 241, Resolution 23-184, Committee Draft 1, as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This is granting a special management area use permit to allow the construction of a single-family dwelling, accessory dwelling unit, and carport at 66-153 Walikanahele Road at tax map key 6-6-005:046 in Haleiwa.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say?
Aye.
Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 241 and Resolution 23-184 CD1 has been adopted. Turning to the top of page 21, from the Committee on Parks, Enterprise Services, and Culture and the Arts, Councilmember Tolba.
I move that Committee Report 248 and Resolution 23-180 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Accepting a gift of a ventilator valued at $3,585 to the City and County of Honolulu, a zoo society for the Honolulu Zoo Veterinarian Hospital.
Thank you, members, or excuse me, Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. I do note the presence of newly appointed director of DES. If you have any questions, we are in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 248 and Resolution 23-180 has been adopted. Councilmember Tolba.
I move that Committee Report 249, Resolution 23-187 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Accepting a gift of 2 basketball court backboards with vinyl artwork valued at $1,150 to the city from Malama Kipuka, Hawaii, to be installed at Smith-Baratania Park.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you, members. We're in discussion. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, followed by Cordero.
Chair, I would just like to invite everyone to the Mid-Autumn Festival, which will be at Smith-Baratania Park, and the unveiling of this mural, which will be on September 30th.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. This question is for DPR relating to Hi, Deputy Director. I wanted to ask this question in committee, but I think we went too fast during that discussion, or I made a joke and I forgot what I was going to ask last committee. But my question was relating to when things are when objects or are gifted to the parks, about upkeep of city standards. This type of backboard, it has vinyl, yeah, and our current backboards are what kind of material?
I'm sorry, I can't answer. I don't know what.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. But if it, since we do have set city standards for set city structures, what happens when we are gifted something that is not within the city standards, and does that change in upkeep in any way, shape, or form? When we have gifted items, do we have a requirement of what's within the city standards that they can then gift?
Yeah, so, even with our murals, this is only the second time that backboards the artwork has been donated. This same group, Malama Kipuka, also did artwork on the backboards at Cartwright, and it's beautiful, it's vibrant. They really want to help engage public and just have them come and enjoy our parks and the courts specifically. So with these kinds of projects, art projects, mural projects, we normally put it becomes the responsibility of the donors to upkeep. So for example, if murals are, if there's graffiti or anything of that sort, we will have the donors come back we'll do some touch up, but it's on them to really fix it and upkeep the mural. So we have something similar happening in Waianae with one of our murals. The group has come back to fix the mural, but that's normally our procedures. Our maintenance is minimal. And this is specific to artwork.
Okay, thank you. And at the committee, I did ask about Adopt a Park, yeah. So not necessarily, since, the Malama Kipuka Hawaii has not adopted the park, but they have gifted different materials to different parks. So there's no requirement to adopt a particular park, yes?
No, not to. Yeah, we take gifts and gifts of service, whether you're an adopter or not.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Like I mentioned in committee, is would welcome some gifts to Kalihi. Okay, thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, thank you. Any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 249 and Resolution 23-187 has been adopted. Turning to the top of page 22, Councilmember Tolba.
I move that Committee Report 250 and Resolution 23-190 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Accepting a gift for replacement and repairs of safety padding to a playground surface valued at $9,750 to the city from the Honolulu Zoo Society for the Honolulu Zoo.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 250 and Resolution 23-190 has been adopted. Now to the bottom of page 22 from the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I move that Committee Report 254, Resolution 23-185 be adopted.
Councilmember Kia Aina for the second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
Urging the City Administration to support the development of the Ko'olaloa Community Resilience Hub.
Thank you. Is there a motion to amend?
Yes, Chair. I move that Resolution 23-185 be amended to the posted FD1, making the amendments clarifying that the Ko'olaloa region does not have a hurricane shelter that complies with state of Hawaii guidelines for hurricane evacuation shelters, amending from 30 to 14 days the expected length of time identified by the city that the Ko'olaloa community would need to be able to depend on certain forms of government assistance in the event of a disaster, and making various technical non-substantive amendments.
Thank you. Is there a second? Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, explained by the drafter of the bill. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have one in-person testifier, if the person's still here, Ms. Dottie Kelly Paddock.
Dottie Kelly Paddock? Aloha, welcome. Thank you so much for waiting patiently.
Okay, thank you. I'm a patient woman. Thank you. We've been working on this project for over 10 years now. This is about the Ko'olaloa Community Resilience Hub located in Hau'ula for the Ko'olaloa District. As I spoke before in committee, this is a very critical project for our communities in Ko'olaloa. We have a very high-risk highway, Kamehameha Highway, along that stretch of road, one way in and one way out. Our communities have been told for a decade by city and state, Haima, General Hara, that in a disaster, a major disaster, we would be on our own for 30 days or more. So get prepared, and that's what we're trying to do. We are proposing a resilience hub that would meet FEMA 361 standards to address the forces of a Category 5 hurricane. Am I finished?
No, please proceed. Go ahead.
Okay, and we have found that with 85, it was projected that 85% of the homes in the area would be destroyed by a Category 1. And therefore, given the unlikelihood that people could all leave that area on one road and get out of harm's way, we know that we will need to shelter many people. And we have prepared a plan over the last year of the EAD, which is the Environmental Assessment and Design, that will be released soon to all the departments that are appropriate by G70 and Plus Labs. And we have all been meeting every other week very hard on this, and this will be a facility that will serve 1,500 people in a disaster. We believe that every community has different needs, and across this island there are many small, vulnerable coastal communities that may need resilience hubs as well. But please, take your vote today and support us. We would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And no objections to the amendment, I presume? Okay. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to, mahalo Auntie Dottie for all the work that she's been doing, not just with city partners, but at all levels of government. And I think it's amazing. And I think the resolution is an opportunity to, as mentioned, just acknowledge the need for a resilience hub. And I think it is much broader than Ko'olaloa, but I think it's a great place to start because of just the infrastructure there and the need for the community. And ideally, it'll provide a model that can be replicated across Oahu and even the state. I'm understanding that these hubs were contemplated in our resilience strategy several years ago. And so as we, see what we just saw in Maui, we see continued impacts from larger storms, we see changing weather patterns. So understanding that we really have to be prepared as a community, I'm excited to have this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none, any objections or reservations to the motion to amend? Noting no objections or reservations, Resolution 23-185 has been amended to the posted FD1. Now we're in discussion on the posted FD1. Would you like to incorporate your comments, Councilmember Wire?
Yeah, I would, Chair. I don't know if the administration would ask. Looks like MD may have a few comments.
Oh, perfect. Thank
would welcome input or thoughts.
Aloha, welcome, Managing Director.
Thank you, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiana, and council members, Mike Formby, Managing Director. So I did come today to testify in support of Resolution 23-185 FD1. The administration does stand in support of the community. We met yesterday with Dottie in the mayor's office to basically let her know that we acknowledge there has been miscommunications and I think some misunderstandings between the city and county and the community over how best to implement this resilience hub. But what Mayor and I assured Dottie and the community yesterday is to the extent we can be a part of helping them achieve their goal, we want to do that. And so one of the challenges that we have, and we had back when Councilmember Sunioshi was on council, was that the land is not owned by the city, the land is owned by DLNR and it's currently leased to the community. And if we want to put CIP money into this facility, we need to resolve that issue. So there are issues that need to be resolved. Dottie, we know, Mayor calls her a force of nature, because if you put an obstacle in front of her, she will go around it. And she's very good at that. So I'm convinced, and the mayor's convinced, that if we work with Dottie and the community, we can figure out how to achieve this goal, and the city can play a vital role. So we look forward to supporting council in this resolution, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the Managing Director? Seeing none, thank you very much. Any further discussion, members, on the FD1? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 254 and Resolution 23-185 FD1 has been adopted. Turning to the top of page 23 from the Committee on Public Infrastructure and Technology, Councilmember Tupola.
I move that CR 257 and Resolution 23-127 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tupola for the explanation.
Approving the grant of relocated easement to Kikivai Investments LLC over, upon, through, and across the portion of the city's land TMK 14-3-055:011.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 257 and Resolution 23-127 has been adopted. Now to the bottom of page 23, Councilmember Tupola.
I move that CR 258 and Resolution 23-179 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tupola for the explanation.
Urging the city administration to partner with the Hawaii State Department of Transportation to extend the growing area of the Ulihava Stream and Canal.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Oh, we have an in-person testifier.
Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiaina, members of the council. My name is Clyde Hayashi, and I work for the Hawaii Ironworkers Stabilization Fund. T. George Paris, Managing Director of the fund, has been advocating for a permanent solution to the problem of sand blocking the Ulihava Stream. It's created a health problem. He requested State Representative Darius Kila to introduce a resolution at the legislature, which was passed unanimously, which encouraged the city to clean the stream, but also to find a permanent solution. He's since had discussions with the city DFM, state DOT, state DLNR, Mahalo Warren for the great work that they're doing right now in cleaning the mouth of the stream. Looking forward to the dredging and the cleaning of the canals, which have become a public health problem. Mr. Paris has pointed out over time that further down the road, Mailili Stream by the Waianae Comprehensive Center has a growing, and the sand does not block that. So he suggested a similar kind of solution. So for the health and safety of the people of Nanakuli, we hope that the growing will become a reality soon. Again, we testify in support of this resolution.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, anybody else wishing to testify? Hello, Mr. Kahele. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, members of the council, longtime member of the Leeward Coast. I wanted to kind of repeat what my partners just said, but I won't even go there. He and I have been spending weeks in Nanakuli, Miley, and we've actually witnessed the cleanup of the stream. And I gotta say, Director Mamazuka been doing a great job. They cleaned up the stream finally. So we went there yesterday again. Parts of the stream is blocked off again. To the current, the sand is building up, and I don't believe it's gonna stay open too much longer. This growing is important. Get it done so we don't have to be here 6 months later begging for somebody to clean up our stream. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Kahele? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Okay, thank you. I do note that we do have Deputy Director of DFM present if members have any questions. I do want to thank Mr. Mamizuka. Do you have any questions for Mr. Mamizuka? I just have one or two. So you folks went out and cleaned the stream? Deputy Director Mamizuka?
Yeah. Aloha, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiaina, and council members. Yes, we have our roads division crew out there. They've been out there for several weeks. So we are running into problems with stream mouth opening. We normally open up the Waianae portion first. And then as we work on the Nanakuli side, the sand, through current is moving right back and plugging the Waianae portion of the Ulehava stream. So it's been a battle, but we did lower the water levels. We dredged 38 truckloads of silt from the U2 channel. So that's been helpful. It minimizes the smell. And our crews are still currently out there opening a stream mouth. It's been a challenge, but we look forward to supporting and working with the state DOT as far as the planning and construction of the growing and also the maintenance after it's built. Yeah. Tyler, do you want to? Tyler's crew has been doing a wonderful job up there. When we had some storm events that was supposed to hit the islands, we had to send our crews out to other areas of the island, and then we went right back to Olehava, and Tyler, maybe he should come out and come up and say a few words.
Sure. Aloha.
Good afternoon, Chair Waters, council members. Tyler Sugihara, Chief of Road Maintenance, Department of Facility Maintenance. So yeah, our crew has been out there working under the Army Corps of Engineers permit in both the dredging as well as the stream mouth opening. Right now, we have been opening the stream mouth almost daily because the sand keeps replenishing itself with the current surf conditions. And so the extended groin would help out keep the sand from rebuilding in the stream mouth, and so we could finally, open it one time, and then it probably would stay open for a bit of time. Right now, we open up in the morning, and by the evening, it's all closed up. So it's as if we never did any work the previous day. So this would really help.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Oh, Councilmember Say.
Yeah, Deputy Director, when you say it's the DOT, I thought it would be DLNR because of the high water mark. The groin is going to go into the ocean? The groin that you guys are constructing is going to go into the ocean?
Yes.
So it should be DLNR, right?
Actually, the State Department of Transportation is taking the lead. We met with Director Sniffen. So they have a project to replace the Ulehava Bridge, and they're going to try and incorporate the growing into the project.
So I think Mr. Sugihara's group is going to be out there for the whole year. Every day you got to dredge. So how long will the new bridge take on behalf of the council member from the west side?
I believe we're just getting into the planning stages.
Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe
so it'll be a
5-6
while.
years.
He said he'd start in 2025, but
yeah.
it's DOT, so they have other projects. We're hoping they stick to 2025.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we got your number now, 2025. Nah, I'm only kidding, Mr. Mamizuka.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the update. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Members, any further discussion? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. So I did file Council Communication 238, which is the handout that we gave out when we met with Congresswoman Takuda and Department of Transportation, just outlining that DFM has been out there 3 to 4 times a year. But, you know, I think one part that we didn't really cover is that the Army Corps of Engineers did stop giving us a permit at one point. And after that happened, there was severe, I think, backlog inside the stream. And now we're trying to play catch up. But now it's really, it's too much. I mean, we barely have enough workers as it is. We have 4 operators on the island for DFM, but to have one person dedicated to digging sand is just crazy. We need it though, because I get tons of calls from people saying that the stench from the stilt, the vegetation, the pollution is too much for them to bear. So thank you for taking all those truckloads out of the U2 canal. And I really think, again, that it's also dangerous to not have the river emptied out when we do have heavy rains. Heavy rains are coming in a few months, and it's been to the point where the river gets right up to where the road is, and they have to rush out there and try to dig it out so that we can clean it. So this has risen to the level of seriousness that it can't just be a city project. It has to be city, state, federal. Congresswoman Tokuda said she was going to see if the Army Corps of Engineers had any extra funding for projects, if they could jump in and help. She's very cognizant of the issue. They both offered to maybe give us machinery, which we're hoping for because we don't have too much of the right machines that we need. We have 2 of them. So anyways, I just want to thank DFM. You know, Deputy's great. Tyler is the man. We definitely rely on DFM to do everything that we need, and they've been coming through with everything they said they were going to. So thank you guys. I know this is going to be quite the battle to keep this up until the bridge gets repaired, but I really need my Paloa Bridge to get fixed first, since that hasn't been fixed. So we have to go in order because they're fixing Makaha Bridge next, and then we're up for Ulihava. So I do think that it's important to note that DOT's been a great partner to us at the city, and they continue to be so. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 258 and Resolution 23-179 has been adopted. Moving to the top of page 24, balance of committee reports. Vice Chair Kia Aina.
I moved the balance of committee reports be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Kia Aina for the explanation.
EMLA Committee Report 234, request for authorization to settle a case against the City and County of Honolulu entitled The Estate of Dana Okeakuako Ulana Kanawai Brown et al. Versus City and County of Honolulu et al. Civil number CB21-00474 HD/KJM. EMLA Committee Report 235, request for authorization to settle City and County of Honolulu versus Norman Kwok Kyong Nip et al. Civil number 1 CCV-22-00000422. EMLA Committee Report 236, request for authorization to settle a claim against the City and County of Honolulu entitled Robert C. Marfitt versus City and County of Honolulu, matter ID 23-00845. Public Infrastructure and Technology Committee Report 259, grant of sewer easements 2338, 2339, 2459, 2460, 2461 for public use in EVA.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Councilmember Okimoto.
Chair, on Committee Report 234, are we doing this all together or individually?
All together.
Okay, so can I just have a no vote for CR 234?
Okay.
Just that measure, thank you.
Thank you. Any objections or reservations, members? Thank you. Mr. Clerk, please note the no vote for Councilmember Okimoto on AMLA CR 234. The balance of the committee reports have been adopted. Members, now turning back to page 11, Bill 20, CD2. What I'd like to do, members, with your indulgence, we have four floor drafts. What I'd like to do is have each drafter of the floor draft explain what the bill does, what the draft does, and then have public testimony with regard to the various drafts, and then discuss. So why don't we start, if you are prepared, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, can you explain what CD2, your CD2 version does, as well as your hand-carried version?
Yes, happy to. Chair, so that we can have this discussion, should I move that we adopt the report and the bill CD2 as amended past third reading? Is this an appropriate time to make this motion, or should we do this explanation part
I'd
first?
prefer explaining it all first.
Okay.
And then we move into testimony, discussion, and then your motion.
Okay. Members, currently Bill 20, CD2 as amended, relates to parking. It does a number of things which have been fairly extensively discussed in committee and is also available in the binder. So I won't belabor the point of what the underlying bill currently does. I did introduce a proposed FD1 that makes a simple change. In Section 8 of the bill, it amends ROH 15-30.4 C2 to allow motor vehicles displaying a special license plate as defined in ROH 15-29.1 to park in an RPZ without obtaining or displaying an RPZ permit. Currently, the draft says that if you have a hang tag, a disability hang tag, you can park in an RPZ zone without having the RPZ decal. The Disability Communication Access Board noted that some folks with disabilities have a special license plate and don't use the hang tag, and so they asked for this to be included. It's a fairly simple change. There are also miscellaneous technical and non-substantive amendments that are being made. This one's a fairly simple FD1.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kia Aina, can you please explain your floor draft?
Thank you, Chair. Largely consistent with my previous recommendations, my proposed floor draft would ensure increased fees to reduce the amount of the subsidy that these programs will require from the general fund, continue to allow waivers for additional permits, but not more than 2 additional permits, remove the waiver permit amounts from the table so as not to confuse folks that additional permits are automatically allowed, allow DTS to use fees to cover maintenance costs if they collect sufficient funds, and remove the director's ability to waive or reduce RPZ fees based simply on a finding that the rates are too high or a finding that the rates would cause undue hardship. I continue to believe that we should charge higher fees. If a permit costs the city $278 and we only charge $100, that's a very deep subsidy. I am recommending $150 for the first permit, still a very deep subsidy, and $250 for the second permit. Again, this is only $12.50 and a little more than $20 a month for the first and second permit. I did take note of testimony from the last hearing about the power for the director to waive fees upon a finding that rates are too high for an area or that the rates would cause an undue hardship. And I think those situations can be argued in almost all situations. I appreciate that the number of annual permits have been capped at 2, but can be waived. And I think the number of the number of waived permits should also be capped to an additional 2 permits.
Thank you. Members, you may note that I introduced 2 FDs. One is I'll differentiate between the two. The first one is my posted FD, and the second is a hand-carried FD. I'd like to first explain the posted FD one. Basically, I wrote Corp Counsel a letter asking 2 questions. One, does the establishment, expansion, reduction, modification, or dissolution of a restricted parking zone by the Director of Transportation Services constitute agency action required to be taken by rule under Chapter 91, Hawaii Revised Statutes as amended? And 2, does the annual administrative adjustment of RPZ's base rates by DTS Director constitute agency action required to be taken by rule under HRS Chapter 91? As a result of the answer that I received, I introduced the posted FD1, which says that DTS Director may establish a new RPZ or expand, reduce, or dissolve an existing RPZ by rule. So again, it's by rule. It clarifies that they would do it by rule. And the DTS Director would update the schedule. Second, Kalihi Valley RPZ is established as an uncodified section of the bill, so that the schedule does not appear in the revised ordinance of Hawaii. In other words, I was concerned that in the CD2 version, Kalihi Valley is actually mentioned and codified in the bill itself. This version would take it out of that. Third, that council may dissolve an RPZ at its discretion. Fourth, an annual residential permit fee or annual visitor permit fee would remain at $100. Fifth, the DTS Director may adjust the amount of RPZ permit fee by rule. Again, that it's clear that it has to be done by rule, but not more than 10%. And the public hearing is required as part of the rulemaking process. And lastly, that resident defined as anyone who lives within the council district in which the RPZ is located. That means if it's someone is one street outside of the RPZ, could still actually purchase one of the permits. That is my posted FD. Since then, I met with the Director of Department of Transportation Services, and in a discussion that we had, I came up with my hand-carried FD1. And this is what the hand-carried FD1, which is completely different than what I just explained to you all, right? And this is based on my conversation with the Director of Department of Transportation. As I mentioned, my posted FD, the Director has the ability to expand, reduce, or dissolve existing RPZs by rule. What the hand-carried does is DTS Director may recommend establishment of a new RPZ or expansion, reduction, or dissolution of an existing RPZ by submitting findings and recommendations to the council, which would approve by resolution. And the DTS Director updates the schedule. Second, Kalihi Valley RPZ is not established by ordinance and may be established by resolution subsequent to the enactment of Bill 20. Third, annual residential permit fee or annual visitor permit fee remains at $100. Fourth, DTS Director may adjust the amount of the RPZ permit fees by rule, but not more than 10%, and a public hearing would be required. And lastly, that the resident defined as anyone who lives within the council district in which the RPZ is located. And in other words, the resident does not have to live in the RPZ, within the RPZ. Basically, so members, we have 4 versions. And I'd like to take public comment on all 4, and then we can discuss. And I'd love to have the Director of Department of Transportation Services also speak to all of the above. Having said that, I note that Natalie Wassa registered to speak on Bill 20. Why don't we start with Natalie and then see who else is available to testify. Thank you for waiting. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start, I have a question. I see this as getting to be really pretty messy, which I assume is why you put it at the end of the agenda for today. So, you know, 2 of these floor drafts were hand carried. The public hasn't seen them. We don't know which direction the council is going in. So I'm just wondering if we provide our initial testimony, and then after you go through your amendments and get to the final one before you do your final vote, if you would allow additional public testimony on that final amended version. Is that a doable thing?
Possibly. Why don't we start with your testimony first?
Okay, thank you. Natalie Wassa, for the record, I oppose this measure. I did submit written testimony. You know, it's mentioned that this particular program is meant to be an enforcement tool, but it's ineffective. And the reason is that it moves the problem from one area to another. It privatizes our roadways, but taxpayers are not required to pay for those repairs or maintenance or buy those roadways. There's too much discretion given to the director of DTS. While I appreciate the floor draft that is out there, it still allows for a lot of discretion and sets up the director, maybe not this particular director, but down the line, sets it up for corruption. And in Kalihi, I actually rode around this last weekend to take a look at the ones that were in place, and I was amazed at how much parking those homes have already on their properties. They have like 4 or 5 vehicles in some places, and now you're going to allow people to privatize our road and get permits to put 2, 3, 4 more vehicles on the road. This does nothing to reduce the number of vehicles on our roadways. It's a gross misuse of taxpayer funds. It's just wrong. So I'm very, very concerned about this. I would suggest actually with all these floor drafts that you go back to committee, but ultimately I oppose the RPZs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Dos Santos.
Thank you. I just have 2 questions. To your contention about privatizing streets, are you therefore also opposed to parking meters?
No, you know, that's different. You come, anybody comes, they can put their money in, and that's it. It's public use. What you're doing here is you're saying that this roadway, if you live there, you can pay the city a certain fee that doesn't even cover the cost, and you have the priority and the privilege of parking there. People who come work from outside the area, they're not allowed to park there. That's not so with our public parking meters.
And so let me also ask this. So you drove to Kalihi Valley to take pictures of people's driveways and determine whether they, in your estimation, they have enough parking. You've been at all of these hearings. You've heard from the residents. Are you telling me that based on your pictures, in your judgment, that your judgment is better than their judgment and what they're asking for? That's what I'm hearing.
That's kind of a loaded question. Okay,
well, that's what I'm hearing.
So my point is, I totally get it, first of all. I totally get it. Anybody who's driven on those roads knows they are very narrow. They have very limited parking. I totally understand that. But what you're doing is you're taking our public roadways, which all taxpayers pay for, and you're saying that if I want to go park at one of those roads, I'm not allowed to because I don't have a permit. I don't live there. And I think that's just simply wrong.
So let me ask this. When you drove to Wilson and Jenny Street, did you have a chance to talk with any of the residents?
I did not talk to anybody. I've heard their testimonies. I totally understand their position. But again, it's just not the right way to use taxpayer money.
Any other questions for Ms. Iwasa? Seeing none, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers? Mr. Manaku?
Dave Shamanaku Senior, concerned parent, grandparent, great grandparent. You know, I also believe in what Mr. Awasi was saying. You know, we're an island. We're completely different than the continent, Mr. Tan. You know, we don't. I'm completely bewildered with your questions. Are you a family man? Do you have friends and family that live on Oahu? So when you go into another neighborhood, do you park inside? Do you park in a private place, or do you park in a where do you park when you go into in another community? Do you park in a public place, or do you park in a private place? See, on an island, we're supposed to be public, supposed to be private. We're supposed to be able to park wherever we're supposed to be. But anyway, let me get back to my concern. Yeah, my concern is my ability to go into any community. I'm a subsistence practitioner, and yet you folks are denying me my ability to go into any public or any private, any community. You're denying me that. Why are you doing that? I cannot go to the mountains. I cannot go to the ocean because of what you folks are doing right now. Why are you folks doing that? The state constitution says that I can do these things. But now you folks are silly saying that I cannot do this. Why are you folks denying my rights? What's happening here? This is supposed to be America. Well, in fact, if this is Hawaii, this is Hawaii. This is not supposed to be happening. You guys think it's funny? Why are you smiling like that? This is not funny, young man. This is not funny. Shame on you guys. No, really, shame on you guys. You guys taking away our rights? Go look at the Constitution of Hawaii before you guys start making laws. Because the law says, I have the right to the ocean, and I have the right to the mountain, and yet you guys staying here right now, taking it away from us. And you guys think that's funny. Please stop. You guys are grown people. You guys talk about laws? Why is the state constitution here for? Or don't you folks follow the state constitution as well as the city?
Thank you, Mr. Malaku. May I ask you to please wrap up your testimony?
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have anybody else wishing to testify on?
Mr. Chair, we have one person logged in.
Okay,
for this
thank you
measure.
very much. Please proceed.
Aloha and good afternoon, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kia Aina, and members of the council. My name is Micah Munikata. I'm with the Ulupono Initiative, testifying in support of Bill 20 CD2. I would first like to thank Transportation Committee Chair Tyler Dos Santos Tam for his leadership on this bill, along with Council Chair Waters and Vice Chair Kia Aina for their continued efforts on this measure. Parking management is critical to helping create the city we want to live in and serve the transportation system we want to have. We think that this bill creates a solid framework for DTS to help address, amongst other things, transportation choices across our communities. Regarding the proposed floor drafts today, we were able to briefly review some of the recommendations to the CD2. Ulupono is supportive of some of the RPZ costs to support street maintenance. but perhaps not all, maybe a percent, such as say up to 75%. We think that if some money goes back into RPZ, more folks may be willing to try and start an RPZ. We also support previous language around the kickback to those that opt out of the program within an RPZ. This mobility wallet could be helpful to encourage folks to drive less. In the next draft, we have some concerns regarding proposed resident definition and its effects on specific neighborhood parking management. Also, we hope that any considerations for rulemaking not create an onerous process for establishing any type of RPC. Mahalo again for all your work on this bill, and we look forward to its passage today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for our Ulupono initiative? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Clerk, anybody else wishing to testify from the public?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Thank you. I do see Mr. Morton here. Aloha, Director. Thank you for being here. We also have Corporation Council members if members have any questions. Mr. Director Morton, did you have a chance to review all the versions currently under consideration?
Yes, first of all, aloha. Thank you, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kia Aina, members of the council. Roger Morton for the record, Director of Transportation Services. Yes, my staff and I have both gone through all four of the drafts that are before you now.
Thank you. And do you care to opine on your preference?
I like parts of some, and I don't like some parts of others. Let me start with the first, most paramount one. I think that the proposal that an RPZ, if it is established, require some type of resolution from the council is a good one. I think that the guidance that you provided in there over what DTS would do, what factors we would consider, give us good guidance on what to do. I think I did see where there was specific consideration that we're supposed to take to make sure that we are mindful and consider the issues that were brought up earlier by a testifier regarding the shoreline and the mountains and the rights of people to gather and fish and do those kind of things. And we would, if we did analysis, we would definitely include those types of issues. Chair, with respect to your proposal that anybody in a council district be allowed to, to buy a permit for an RPZ, that seems too large a bridge for myself. That would seem to, make the RPZ less effective and maybe even render it as not usable at all. With respect to the fees, I'm ambivalent about the fees. I certainly hear the issue that we have proposed fees that are too low, that don't cover the cost of the program and don't really have a specific comment on the fees. I would point out, and I'd leave this for BFS to determine, but the provision that the fees, first could be used for street maintenance, sidewalk maintenance, and the such, would require BFS, I think, to start a different accounting system to keep track of those fees. And the provision says that if those fees are gone, then the repairs would be done through the normal process anyway. So my suggestion would be that the fee should go to the highway fund without the requirement of keeping track of whether there were special repairs done. And if there were special repairs done, they would come out of the highway fund in any case. So those were some of my comments. Let's see. With respect to rulemaking, it would be the department's preference to do rulemaking to set up the parameters for the program, but not to require rulemaking for each and every RPZ. That would seem to me to create a lot of effort for us, whether that be to raise fees or not. If we had to raise fees by rulemaking, we would probably do it in a multi-year thing. We probably would not do it every year. It would just be too it's limited to 10% anyway in the bill, and would probably not find it useful to do it. So those are my initial comments. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I you know, it's obvious that with 4 different versions, this is a more complicated bill than everybody that we all thought it was when it first started. Where the department is you know, thinks that many of the issues really are fundamentally policy issues, which I think should be reserved to the council.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the director? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Morton. Over the course of this in committees, I've asked you about the fees as well, and I have had questions and concerns about the subsidy, this being largely subsidized rather than the cost of it being covered by the permit fee. We had different, with Vice Chair Kiaina's version, there was an increase. And I did hear over the course of this that eventually I think the goal would be, or the thought would be, that the fees would not be heavily subsidized. We would eat the cost in the beginning, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was wondering at what point will this program, if it goes through, be not in the red, but we would have to, because we're talking about if we put it into which funds, but right now if it's about 280 and we're subsidizing 180 of that, when does the program ever become self-sufficient where we could get the funds to actually go into the highway fund to incorporate or to benefit our roads? Right now, I just see this as a negative, and I'd like to know when in your account, your calculations, when would it not be in the negative?
I think that you know, there are different opinions on fees, obviously, and one of the issues is that you know, to price people out of the parking, you know, because the fees are too high is one issue. To your question, no, I think that what I would prefer would be to have the opportunity to implement the program so we could do a proper accounting of exactly how much it is. So far, our estimates are just that, they're estimates. We've counted up the number of signs, we've counted up the number of staff hours, we've allocated the staff hours, and we've divided by what we think would be the normal number of people in a RPZ. Inevitably, all of those numbers that we estimated are not going to be accurate for any and all of the RPZs. They're estimates, the best we could do to give you what we thought was an average assessment. But myself, I would prefer to implement a program, and then after 1 or 2 years to really have an opportunity to determine exactly what are the actual fees. Some of them we can estimate really well. You know, signs cost so much to put up, and those can be estimated. Staff time is a little more amorphous and harder to say. We're not sure whether we would have to third-party source some things out, but that's all I can say is I'm not opposed to, you know, I initially recommended $100. I'm not opposed to different fee issues from that at all.
Thank you, Director. And I know, as a follow-up, I know in a previous committee hearing, again, when I asked about, you mentioned that there aren't going to be marked stalls or positions, so we don't even have an idea of how many vehicles you're estimating. We actually, I feel like I have no clue about what this project is going to look like, and that's a little concerning to me.
There are no marked stalls in the one RPZ that we have. I didn't say that we wouldn't have them in any RPZs. I did say that generally when we mark stalls, we lose parking spaces. Sometimes in some communities, marked stalls are better than no marked stalls, particularly if in a suburban community where the driveways are X number of feet apart, it may make sense to have marked stalls in some places, but that would be site determined by our engineers and wouldn't be something that we would want to say carte blanche that there would never be any marked stalls, or that there would be. Generally, when there's wider swaths of territory, you get more cars without marking the stalls.
Understandable. And so knowing that with this, your recommendation is to just kind of see with the pilot program. We actually have no clue until we started to see how many cars are going to be alongside the road and how much income we'll generate. will not? Actually, how many permits will be issued and how much we're going to be in the negative? Again, we have no concept of that at this moment.
Each RPZ would be a different number, and we would, almost by necessity, since we don't have and don't intend to increase staffing a lot, to do this program, that our capacity to do them would be limited to perhaps one RPZ per year. So that would limit the amount of underwater that we could be by just the capacity of our department to implement RPZs, which would be a slow process.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions for the Director? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Director, for your feedback on all of the different items. There's a couple that you didn't cover, so I'm just going to ask them. But I do think that, knowing that we're trying to do a slow roll, what would we call it, a rolling start, because we're not just going to full blast this across the county. Lots of things still yet to be determined. I think, obviously, with the fees, I like that you said you don't really have a stance because you're not sure. We really don't know. We've never charged a RPZ permit fee, so we don't know if it'll be too expensive for people to participate, if it'll succeed, if it'll fail. But the good thing is we're not rolling it out in 10 areas, right? We're doing it in an area that already had it established. We're going to see what it looks like to actually pay instead of have it for free and start to do all of the structure around it. So my question was in regards to the line that said to uncodify Kalihi Valley. Maybe that's just to take out specific area names, but do you have a stance on that particular proposal in one of the floor drafts?
Pardon me. I saw the proposal, and I'm not sure what the point of trying to get to that point is. But I do share your thought that it would be a good neighborhood to try out the fees and implement them and see, how all the residents there would react to fees. And it's one reason why I'm hesitant to suggest a huge fee is because I know the neighborhood that we're dealing with that are not people with large means. So I'm aware of that. And I also didn't comment on the proposal to not allow the director to reduce fees. And I don't have any issues with that either. I totally understand the issue that Councilmember Kia'aina was trying to get to with that proposal. So I have no objections with that. I don't think I'm answering your question totally.
No, so are you for or against uncodifying the word Kalihi Valley? I just wanted to know because I guess for me it was pilot, no fees. Now we're moving it up a next step, which is we're trying to do some fees, and I wanted it to stay in that area just to make sure that it goes well in an area that already pilots it before we just randomly choose another community to do it. So yes or no on the uncodifying of Kalihi Valley?
Yes.
Yes, meaning don't put it in there?
Yet, well, yeah, I don't intend to take it out. And I guess I'm just not sure what that means. I might need to get advice from.
I see. You're saying you're not sure if it makes a difference because you guys are basically going to pursue it in Kalihi Valley, which is the next step. If it passes that there be fees and permits, it would be in Kalihi Valley.
I am not sure what the intent of that uncodifying it was driving at.
Okay. All right. Well, that was my last question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I can perhaps help clarify. If you codify Kalihi Valley, it means it's in the revised ordinance of Honolulu. The only way that you can change it is if you change the ordinance. You're not allowed to do it anymore. It's codified. It means it's in the law. Kalihi Valley would be in the law. Now, you'd prefer it in the law or not in the law?
I think when said, was I in favor of uncodifying it, I said yes.
Thank you, Doug. Any further questions for the director?
Thank you, Chair. These questions are sort of tangential, but they're designed to sort of make a point. So, Director, for our parking meter program, island-wide, how much do we spend on parking meters every year, and how much do we collect back?
We collect about half of what it costs us to operate the program.
So if we're concerned about a parking management program losing money, should we then uninstall all of the parking meters island-wide since we're losing 50% on every parking meter?
As you know, council member, the purpose of parking meters is not primarily to generate revenue, but it's to regulate parking primarily in business districts for the benefit of the businesses that don't want all-day parking.
So in an analogous way, what would you say the purpose of the RPZ program is?
I think the purpose for the RPZ program is to provide local residents of the area with some ability to park their cars. Again, the initial bill, which hasn't been modified, does talk about some target from outside the neighborhood that would cause an impact within the neighborhood, and I subscribe to that original ordinance's idea. I do think that RPZs are very common across the continent in larger cities, and in large part, I support the idea of RPZs.
Okay, and the second sort of set of questions are not related to this, but I'll make a point when we come back. Right now, if we were to change a speed limit on a street, how does the department go about doing that?
We amend the schedule. We publish a notice in the newspaper, and then we amend the schedule. We normally gather up several of those at a time, and we do that several times a year.
So we don't need to pass a resolution to do that. The department is enabled to do this.
That's correct.
Does the department need to do rulemaking to change the speed limit?
No.
Similarly, if the department were to establish a tow-away zone, just an entire tow-away zone, no parking on this segment of the street, no parking between this driveway and that driveway, how does the department go about doing that?
We do it through engineering analysis. We do it through determination of traffic flow. We do it through comparing the situation on the ground with warrants that are published in the Manual of Uniform Traffic Management. And we basically follow an engineering approach to doing that.
So, but to actually codify that, do we have to pass a resolution to ban parking on one side of the street or the other?
No.
So if we were to take in Kalihi Valley and just ban street parking entirely, there would be no public input whatsoever, and the department would just take a number of criteria which are already set and make a determination based on those criteria whether to ban parking entirely on a street.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
So if you were to determine for a certain street, let's say Wilson or Jenny Street right now, which are in Kalihi Valley, and you were to look at the warrants and decide we want to ban street parking entirely on one side of the street, you could ban parking theoretically without any council input, without any rulemaking hearing, without even a public notice in the newspaper.
I think we would need public notice in the newspaper, and I appreciate your calling that a theoretical issue, because it would not be the way that we would do that. We would go to the neighborhood board, we would have a discussion with the community, even if we were not required to do that. That's in fact what we would do.
And I appreciate that clarification. So what you're telling me is right now, if the department were to want to modify parking in some way, theoretically, and any part of the island, you would study the issue, you would get community input, and you, as a department, would make a judgment about where parking ought to be and what hours and under what conditions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the director?
Can I ask a follow-up?
Councilmember Tipola.
Director, so if we uncodify, I just want to ask this because I do think that, Ms. Iwasa's concern was that, RPZs in general, if done everywhere, are a little unfair because there should be free public parking, there should be some autonomy, right? So we're just saying in certain areas that you guys deem necessary that this program be implemented for ease and mitigation of parking, right? So if it wasn't codified, would it be in the admin rules, or where would you list? Because in here it says Kalihi Valley RPZ is established as the first RPZ. So would you just write that somewhere in rulemaking as opposed to in the ROH?
I believe that the intent would be to add it to a new schedule of RPZs.
Oh, so RPZ shall be described on schedule such and such. So you'd put it on that schedule, and then as you add new RPZs, possibly through resolution, you would add it onto the schedule.
Yes, but to your question, though, which I think is a good one, as I said, that many of the traffic restrictions that we would make would be done through an engineering evaluation, but those restrictions would apply to everybody. In an RPZ situation, we are specifically taking space away from some people and providing it to another group. So I don't see it as the same as banning parking or doing a one-way street.
That's why I was just trying to say, just to narrow it so that people are aware, in this narrow area, in this section, this is where this applies to. Okay, I kind of understand that, and maybe what the two differences could be, codified versus in a schedule. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And just to follow up, the analogy of a parking meter doesn't really, it's not analogous to RPZs, because in a parking meter situation, everybody can use the parking meter, first come, first serve, right? In an RPZ, not everyone can park there. You have to live there, apply for a permit, pay for a permit. It's not open to the public, right?
There are certain similarities, but there are also certain differences, and I think that you know, it's a question of the government selecting a group rather than you know, just having, as you say, first come, first serve.
And by the way, you know, the testimony that we heard in committee from the residents of Kalihi Valley was very persuasive and compelling. And in no way I think anyone here wants to take away what they've worked hard for. And your department in no way wants to dissolve their RPZ that currently exists, right?
Yes, as I've said, I think the Kalihi RPZ has been a success.
And in fact, we want to try to make permanent what they have so that they feel comfortable that another administration down the line won't take that away. Can you suggest another way of doing that? Because my concern is that we may be creating a law for the entire island when it's not really needed or perhaps not even wanted for the entire island, but yet we want to protect that community. Can you make a suggestion on how we do that?
I think the issue is yours to decide. And that's one reason why I did recommend to you that I thought a resolution was a good method, because it would afford the public the opportunity to speak to the issue that you brought up, was whether or not you know, that this is something that is a good thing. But at the end, it is a discretionary determination of whether we should do something like that, like an RPZ or not. It is not, at least in my judgment, it is not as clear cut as engineering the streets.
And in your opinion, then it's better for the council who represents the island to make that decision rather than you, DTS director.
Well, as Natalie said, maybe I'd be okay, but I don't know about the next guy.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can I ask for the Corporation Counsel to come up?
Chair?
Yes.
Before you do that, can I just ask him one more question before
absolutely.
you go?
I apologize.
No problem.
Sure.
I thought I was going to bring this up during this discussion, but I might as well ask you for the record. First of all, let me just say to all of my colleagues, I guess I was not expecting to have 4 drafts today, 2 posted and 2 floor drafts. And as a result, I'm thinking that it might be wise, even given all of the hard work that Chair Dos Santos Tam has done on this measure, to recommit it back to committee. But let me ask you this. I have been a little concerned myself with your DTS's testimony coming to these hearings, because you have been using the words cautiously supportive. That's not helpful. to me because it's complex. And you just talked a little bit about the 4 drafts. And I guess what I'm wondering is if, in fact, this did get recommitted, could you be on record in writing and give your mana'o on the various elements of the 4 drafts? Because this is hard stuff and complicated stuff, and we need guidance.
Yeah.
And I was expecting to come here today before I was aware of the 2 floor drafts to vote on the measure today to move it forward. But, so I guess my question is, if this got recommitted, would you be willing to put in writing your comments on all 4 amendment drafts?
Yes.
Because that would be helpful, because we can all determine whether we agree with you or not.
Sure.
As this moves forward. So that's all I wanted to ask, and I'll wait for my further comments during discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I just have a question for the director relating to the placement regarding council district. So I know that the council chair mentioned like a street over that's not included within a RPZ. But how do we distinguish between a street away versus something that's in the opposite district?
There could be merit in the street away idea, but I think that, for example, in the Kalihi example, allowing the entire district to be that would render the zone meaningless. So I think that the easiest way, frankly, is to define the boundary, to have that effort done to define a homogeneous boundary that made sense and to restrict it to that. I mean, there could be other ways. I'm not saying they're good or bad, but I'm saying from a implementation and from an enforcement and from all the other areas, I think that would be the simplest. But I just think if it made it too large, it takes away the purpose for having the zone in the first place.
Okay, and I have a question because currently if we do not have an RPZ where we are charging something, we're not receiving any funding for any program in general, right? But then when we start to, I guess, enlist in this program or RPZ program, then there will be subsidizing through other types of, subsidizing of the fees, but are there any other parts of transit that are not subsidized that is fully paid for?
Well, I think the cost of subsidized transportation in Honolulu is huge, and it will be a continuing budget burden for all residents. And it's something that we as a department are going to have to be look at very carefully. As a city, we're all going to have to look at that very carefully. But yes, I would agree with your sentiment that, frankly, in America, almost all of our transportation is subsidized. And that's not necessarily the case in all parts of the world. In Asia, transportation is much less subsidized than it is in America. But it is what it is. And, that from federal policy, from state policy, from city policy, all over the country, we do subsidize freeways, we subsidize transit systems, that's just the way our country has evolved, all the way from the Second World War on with, the expansion of suburbs and all of the other things. I don't know whether it's good or bad. A lot of people love the suburbs. A lot of people hate them. But it is what it is.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hey, I got a follow-up question. So you made a comment that opening up the RPZ to people who live on another street would render the program meaningless. Well, wouldn't you agree, one, that it's more fair since we are privatizing the street, basically? And couldn't you resolve that problem by limiting the amount of permits? Because if only 100 cars fit, 100 people can apply, and that's how many you're going to give out, and perhaps do a lottery, That way you still control parking. But my understanding after listening to the testifiers, it wasn't necessarily parking that was the problem in this particular neighborhood. There was abandoned cars, people drinking outside of the cars, garbage being left all over the place, fights breaking out. And the RPZ solved that problem. And I would venture to say that if someone had to actually pay for that permit, I don't think they're going to take that car and leave it there and abandon it and take the wheels off and party in front of their car. These are hardworking people who know the value of that permit that they got, and they're going to use that in earnest and park their car and then go home.
Well, to your first part of the statement, you said the street that I was opposed to the street next to it. Not necessarily. I could see where that would make sense. I think on that one, I said that I thought it would be more sense to just encompass the area. But with respect to opening it up to the to an entire district rather than the next street, I think that people very well may choose to buy a permit to park wherever they could in those situations that they were not from the neighborhood. And I think that the purpose for RPZs across the country, and I think here too, most of the sentiments, is to make it a neighborhood focused program, not a sale of parking spaces to those that are wanting to pay. I think it's trying to provide those homeowners that own property or rent property in the neighborhood to have an additional set of rights, rightly or wrongly, that give them access to parking close to their residences. That, I think, is the purpose.
As you mentioned, there are lots of public parking stalls on residential streets next to commercial businesses. Are you then saying we should RPZ all these neighborhoods? There's a shopping center in Aina Haina. Do we RPZ those folks? I get complaints from them that the workers in the Aina Haina shopping center are parking in their neighborhood. I live in Kaimuki along Wailai Avenue. Are we going to then RPZ that whole area so that the workers who work in Kaimuki can't park in front of people's houses? And that's going to happen all over the island, folks. That's something that we got to consider when we talk about making an island-wide policy, right? Because in those instances, we are dealing with crowdedness and parking, and not necessarily what's happening in Kalihi. That's why I'm saying, can you recommend how we can protect what happened in Kalihi and make sure those folks are protected permanently, but perhaps not make an island-wide policy? And of course, that's counter to, well, I guess that would be my hand-carried draft that would do that, right? The council would have to vote on that, the establishment of each individual one. But anyway, can I call up Corporation Counsel unless anybody has any other questions for the director?
Good afternoon, Dwayne Payne, Deputy Corporation Counsel.
Thank you very much. One of the questions that came out earlier, that the CD2 establishes the Kalihi Valley RPZ and codifies the schedule for Kalihi Valley RPZ. Is the only way you can change the schedule by coming back and changing the ordinance?
Well, the current version, the CD2 that's been approved, it says, notwithstanding any provision, the Kalihi Valley RPZ is hereby established. So it's established in ordinance. Although it'll be put in the schedule, it is established by ordinance. So to your point about codification and non-codification, the only way you can change an ordinance is to go through 3 readings again. So if you're going to give the director the authority or discretion to create RPZs and then come to you in your hand-carried version and get approval, he can do that throughout the island, but he cannot change the Kalihi Valley one because that's already in the ordinance. Only council would be able to change it via via a new bill and 3 readings.
Do we need to have an ordinance creating RPZs in general? Or could we just say, we hereby create the Kalihi Valley RPZ? Like, take everything else out of the bill except for that part saying, we hereby create Kalihi Valley RPZ.
That is strictly within your discretion. You can create one RPZ, or you can create an island-wide program. The only comment I had about Kalihi Valley in the CD2 version is you're kind of separating Kalihi Valley by keeping it in the ordinance, whereas all the rest of the RPZs will be created by discretion of the director. Yeah.
Okay, and just to say that again, we're creating Kalihi Valley RPZ by law, but the rest of the RPZs would be created by the Director of Department of Transportation Services.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, any follow-up questions? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. My question is relating to the current ordinance. Does the current ordinance already allow for island-wide RPZs or establishment of island-wide RPZs, or is it establishing just the Kalihi Valley RPZs?
I thought it was a pilot program, but I have to go back and look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question for Director Morton, so after. If you,
Any other questions for Corp Counsel? Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Thank you. I don't expect you to have everything like on the back of your hands, but in ROH 15-7.2, it establishes certain speed limit zones. In that speed limit zone portion of the ordinance, it lists out about 24 streets in Eva Villages where the speed limit shall be 15 miles an hour. Has this been problematic in terms of the council by ordinance creating these certain speed limit zones in Eva Villages? Has that made it difficult for enforcement to happen in any other part of the island, or has that infringed upon the director's ability to establish speed limit zones in any other part of the island?
No, as I recall, the Eva Villages was at one point not under the jurisdiction of the city. So maybe when it came under the jurisdiction of the city, we had to do it by ordinance. I can't remember, but I don't think it affects the director's authority to do schedules.
So nevertheless, right now, if I were to drive on any of these streets in Eva Villages, it's fully enforceable. It is part of the ordinance, and it's not part of any future schedule.
If you say so, I'm not familiar with that. Yeah.
But I think the point is, though, that if you wanted to change the speed limit to any of those streets, you'd have to do it by ordinance. You can't do it by schedule.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Corporation Counsel? Councilmember Tupola.
Just a follow-up question. So I hear what you're saying about the leaving the name in would mean that Kalihi Valley stays and then all the other ones are on a schedule. However, I think the point here is that we're trying to make a structure whereby if and when any other RPZs are added, that there's a structure that it operates in. So notwithstanding it's being established in the county, it doesn't mean that it will go everywhere in the county, right? Because it has to be established by schedule, new areas.
That's correct. And I'm not saying that there's a legal prohibition in creating Kalihi Valley in ordinance. I'm just saying if you're going to give the director discretion to amend and make recommendations to you, he won't be able to do that with Kalihi Valley.
Understood. Yeah, just wanted to make that clarification because I think we have a lot of programs that are island-wide, but not everyone uses the island-wide program. But nonetheless, it's a structure, it's available, it's codified, so if we do create something new, we follow that pattern. And then I think as this one rolls out, we could modify it if any new areas are added, which I think it allows us to do that. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions for Corp Counsel? Seeing none, thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question of Director Morton, and apologies if it's simplistic. But, I was also kind of surprised with so many floor drafts, and being not a voting member on Transportation Committee, intended to have a lot of deference to the committee chair and vice chair, who are also the co-introducers of the bill. And so I just am curious, what is, you say that DTS supports RPZs, so could you walk me through the reasons again behind that? It sounded like you're saying it gives residents in a particular neighborhood a little bit more stability.
Well, I think that, again, countrywide, there are RPZs that become a tool almost the same as zoning that, cities use to provide, for certain benefits. In this case, I believe the benefit is to provide stability to the neighborhood. But it is kind of, it's a policy issue for sure. Of whether that's a good use of government power to do that. I totally understand that. But I personally, and I think as a department, we've studied this for many years, and we support the idea of RPZs, at least having that tool available in our arsenal of tools. It is not, we, as council members said, we have lots of island-wide structures, and they don't necessarily proliferate all over the island. So some neighborhoods I don't think are ripe, and we would not recommend an RPZ. And hopefully the numbers that we would recommend would be rare, and only because of some outside of the neighborhood influence that was creating an instability or an intolerable situation within it. I certainly hear the issue of what about business areas, adjacent business areas, and those are always going to be issues that that we'll need to balance. Will be the rights of the residents to have stability and peace, and the rights of others to use the streets because they are public streets.
I appreciate that. So just to clarify, what you're saying that it should be very targeted and purposeful?
Yes.
And then it should be specific to immediate external factors or influences?
I think the underlying bill has that as a provision in the underlying bill, that there be some target or some influence that makes it appropriate to have an RPZ, and I subscribe to that.
Okay, and you're comfortable with it being fully within the department's discretion versus a political or policy type conversation?
My suggestion was that the department would study, would hold a public process, would make a recommendation to council.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, because I think what I would want to avoid is a particular community that has a certain level of influence being able to dictate like what an RPZ looks like, especially when you think about the fact that folks that are going to need to drive, as we're working towards multimodal transportation, are going to be those that have limited options for multimodal transportation, right? So if you're taking the bus, it's going to be a lot easier to do that in town than if you're out in Waipahu or North Shore, even more so. And so who are we pushing out of their cars, encouraging them to get into their cars? So I welcome DTS input, but I do think like it should be, whatever bill we arrive at should be data driven and based on specific influences like is in the bill. So thank you.
Councilmember Cordero?
Oh, thank you. Hi, Director. In relation to over the past few years when we've had this pilot, of course, when the pilot program took off in Kalihi, of course, this spurred a lot of interest throughout the neighborhoods. Do you feel that neighborhoods are able to distinguish or determine, after learning about RPZs, if they are able to consider it, learn about it, see how it impacts their community, and then agree to do it or not? Because I think we did see one in the the Salt Lake Neighborhood Board, where there was maybe a good year of entertaining such discussions and education, and then determining that, Salt Lake Aliamanu is, I think you said, not primed or ripe for for an RPC. But I think what I'm trying to ask is, do you feel that that amount of education and discussion is already warranted with the program that we have going in?
I think that parking technical analysis is not something that would be widespread in the community. So I think the department should have the responsibility of analyzing parking. And certainly we should involve our citizens as much as we can. But ultimately, that's for learning and for doing it. If it doesn't make sense, I think our engineers and our planners should tell us that it doesn't make sense. And that would be our recommendation to council if that's what we felt. But certainly before we got to that point, I think listening to what residents and folks in the community and businesses and everybody else in the community say is part of a process that we would go through. But we would also apply professional judgment to a recommendation that we made.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question relating to the position, relating to the recommendation to the council, then the council voting on it. When did that position change?
Well, I've actually had that position myself for at least for the length of the current deliberation. I wasn't here when the first bill passed, but I've made that recommendation before to several members of council. Okay.
And I guess, of course, for the length of the deliberation in the committee and also in council, I think I've made it clear that I guess I have the opposite view of that and would prefer council not having that discretion. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further questions for the director, corporation counsel, or I guess either of those two testifiers? Seeing none. It's now 3:40, members. I believe the youth baseball team is meeting with the mayor. They were going to come over here at 3:45. We do have 5 minutes to discuss. I'm just curious what people's inclination is on which FD is preferable. That may or may not save us some time. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. I would support Councilmember Dos Santos Tams.
The CD2?
Oh, FD1.
FD1, modifying his CD2.
Oh, correct.
Okay.
Chair.
Councilmember Tupola.
Also supporting Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, CD2, floor draft 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam is CD2, FD1.
Chair.
Councilmember Tupola.
I'll support. It's okay.
Tolba.
We get that a lot.
I haven't done that in a long time.
I'll support Councilmember Dos Santos too. Also.
Okay. Councilmember Say.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I haven't said much, but I truly believe what some of the testifiers have stated for the record. I hope we are not, in the future, privatizing our public roads. You're correct, every community has this problem. The issue will be when you can buy your permit, and then you have a family friend that comes over that doesn't have the permit, etc. What happens then? The other point I'd like to make, and I believe Councilmember Tam has done a great job in trying to mobilize the residents, and they have done a great job. But more importantly, that would be one as far as privatization of our public streets. Number 2, enforcement. Number 3, I don't believe it will work in other parts of the county of Oahu. So looking at it from those 3 perspectives, I would like to say that I'll probably vote no, even though I can sympathize with the residents. I did ask the representative from the district that if I did support the measure, I'd like to have a provision, maybe someday at the state legislature, that we collect all of the violations. We enacted this ordinance. We, the county. And who's enforcing that? HPD. That's another law enforcement of the city and county service. I cannot see it because I truly believe what one of our colleagues said. Why are we subsidizing a new program for DTS and not realizing that we may not have the money to sustain this particular program? Let's not be selfish, Mr. Chair. It is a major concern for all of us because maybe for the primary urban center, I'll probably have the most requests. I have to deal with the traffic. I have to deal with the overflow of students up at Manoa. We have to deal with it with the downtown Honolulu. All I'm saying, let's go slow. Let's not tread something that we'll regret in a year, 2 years. And then for me, maybe we should, by county ordinance, set the fee for the permit. Start off with $356 a year. And how did I arrive at that? How many days in a year? 356. Let's call a spade a spade. If you're going to subsidize it to make it sufficiently successful. If not, don't go and do all these kind of things. I worry about directors' fund. We're going to be losing resources in regards to the poor utilization of fossil fuel in exchange for electric vehicles. And are we going to follow the state now and coming up with a new program to replenish the state highway fund and the city and county fund with mileage? Let's be honest with ourselves. Where are we going to get the resources, Director Morton, to pay for all of these things that we are all requesting for Wailai Road, Nimitz Highway, etc.? What I'm just saying, let's pause for a moment, see where we are at. I complimented Councilmember Toba. It was a great job introducing Mrs. Bison. I think the bigger issue will be for our friends and families in the county of Maui. But at the expense of the other 3 counties, we may be the sacrificial lambs. Sacrificial lambs whereby I hope, and I hope my colleagues across the street is listening. I hope, please, do not take my TAT away. Please do not take my GET away that you have given us in exchange to just restoring their general fund. Let's look at the macro, members. It is going to be a tough one, but I'm going to be voting no, and I can respect Councilmember Tam's position along with Representative John Mizuno. But if I was to get maybe all of the fines on these type of violations, I'll maybe reconsider my decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For the record, I agree with the council members say. But I'd still like to help the folks out in Kalihi Valley. Councilmember Kia'aina.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Again, as I stated earlier, I was not expecting to have 4 floor drafts, 2 posted and 2 hand carried. And given just the disparity between some of the recommendations being made, as well as the continuing concerns expressed by some community members, it is my preference that this measure be recommitted back to the Transportation Committee with the commitment that it will move out of committee at the next hearing and it will move out for final passage to full council at the next full council. I would care to have in writing the Department of Transportation Services comments on all of the 4 drafts so that we all could be more fully informed on the merits of the various elements, which there are many. And so that would be my preference. But I did vote yes, moving the version that's coming to the floor out of committee. And so if I'm forced to vote on the measure, I would be voting with reservations.
Okay. Councilmember Okimoto, followed by Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And I really do appreciate the discussion. And I think I've had concerns from the beginning in committee, and I've expressed it on the fiscal side. I have to echo what Vice Chair mentioned about there being multiple drafts today. And I did have more concerns as Director Morton came before us, and he had his input as well. And I agree with Councilmember Say at the same time, because I do have concerns on how this will move forward. If we are voting today, I will be voting in opposition of the current measures, but I would also like to have it recommitted. And I know that's not the desire. I'm guessing, you know, I think the community that came and they presented their really well balanced testimony for their community, I think that was really helpful. But as a whole, I do have concerns. I am concerned about having so many drafts as well. And this is in no disrespect to the introducers of the measure of the bill, but I would request for it to go back to committee. I will not make the same commitment that Vice Chair said to guarantee it out. I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, unfortunately, before I agree to anything. But if you're asking for a vote today on the measures, it would be aligned with Councilmember Say. So in order to avoid that, I would like to see it go back to recommit to committee.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
before I call on you, thank you. Before I call on you, Councilmember Wire, as opposed to voting a no, I would vote for a recommittal. Councilmember Say, would you support a recommittal? Or just a straight no?
Mr. Chair, this is the process of the City and County of Honolulu City Council, which I feel is very flawed. We can sit on the Transportation Committee hearing once more, but we can't take a vote on it. It has to come to the full council, and I can respect that. My point is that, do we have the time and effort to really come up with something that we can all agree upon? My premise for agreeing to a measure like this would be based upon the fact that all fines from these violations goes to the City and County of Honolulu. We haven't enacted this ordinance, not the state legislature. We are the ones that are enforcing it with HPD. That's what I'm saying. And that's why I did bring it up with Representative Mizuno when he was here. Can I get a commitment? So if you want me to...
Well, let's ask Corporation Counsel if that's possible. Can we write into the bill that any violations of the RPZ, the fine comes back to the city? Are we able to do that? Since we're creating the RPZ, can we?
If it's a traffic violation, it would go to the state. And historically, you've tried that before and it's been overturned. It's within the, it's the state. The state gets the money.
So parking would be considered a traffic violation? We can't
I would think
say
so.
in the bill, this is not a traffic violation, this is an RPZ violation.
Yeah, so, but it's a no parking type of violation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, thank you.
Unless,
in other words,
unless you treat it as an administrative fine. Yeah.
an administrative fine. Oh, Councilmember Say?
Well, first time I've heard of an administrative fine, but I've heard it at the state level, but not at the county level. But no, I'm just very blessed to have this kind of a discussion with my fellow colleagues and bringing up my point of view about why we should be making more and more requests to our brothers and sisters at the state legislature to give this county a little bit more of its fair share. That's all it is, Mr. Chair. But if you want me to...
No. I just wanted to see if we could alleviate some of your concerns. Thank you. So to build this up, not to put any pressure on you, Councilmember Wire, I have 4 votes for Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's version. I have 3 no's with 1 motion to recommit with a second by Okimoto. So what is your preference?
We're still in discussion, right?
Yeah, we're still in discussion.
So I'm just curious what the outcome would be in terms of recommittal. like if we anticipate any changes or it's gonna be just a straight up vote down the line on the same FDs. You know what I mean?
That would be, if it's recommitted, that'd be back to the
If we could
discretion
just
of
flesh that out, yeah.
the Chair of Transportation. Would you like me to ask him that question?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just throwing it out since this is really the only time we can have discussion,
True,
yeah,
because
as
of
a body.
sunshine, right.
And we're still waiting on the youth, so just figured it'd be good to talk it out.
So Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, are you open to friendly amendments if we were to recommit this?
Chair, I note that we have had 8, this is the 8th time that this has come before either this body or a committee. Going to transportation would be number 9, and then it would come back in October, number 10. This has been fairly extensively discussed, and I think some of these are just policy decisions that we have to make. The Transportation Committee has 5 members, and so you need 3 to pass something out. It occurs to me that between the folks supporting my FD1, that is the majority of the Transportation Committee. That said, if it does come back, I'm happy to entertain things, but I think some of these things, as I mentioned, are just policy matters, and they are either one or the other. There's no halfway to whether it should be just the people who live within a zone or everyone within a council district. We can't make half a council district. It's either one or the other. I think for some of these things, the fees, it's either going to be some degree of subsidy, or it's going to be, we're going to charge people $250 plus and make it so unpalatable that nobody's going to want to pay that, and so there won't be any RPZ zones, period. So it's going to be one or the other, that it's either going to be subsidized or not, and we've had that discussion. Councilmember Cordero, I think, made a very good point about council discretion, whether the council should have approval via ordinance or resolution, and she indicated that she would not support that. And so again, it's either one or the other. It's either the council has discretion or we set parameters and allow the director to make that determination based on those criteria. And then I think it's a policy question of rulemaking versus the process that's already in place via amendment to a schedule that works for speed limits, tow-away zones, and other traffic control measures island-wide. So if there are, you know, we can discuss this in committee, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to come back, and it may not ever be a 9-0 vote in favor. So, you know, if it does go back, I would like to bring it back in October. I'd like this to be done. Again, by that point, we will have had 10 hearings on this, which is the most, I think, of any bill that we've discussed this year, and frankly, any bill in quite some time. And so I just put that out there.
No, I appreciate your point that if it's up to you, you'd like to get it done today. Back to you, Councilmember Wire. And by the way, I believe the baseball team's outside.
Okay. Okay, so I think just to make it quick, I appreciate all the work that went into the bill and the amendments. I would prefer that it go back to committee, but would vote with reservations today on Tyler, or Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's version, just because I know that a lot of work went into it, but my preference would be to have further discussion, because I think that the work that was put in was meant to, I think, curtail the proliferation of RPZs. I know that this isn't a bill that's going to put them everywhere. I'm not a particular fan of RPZs, and I think I'd be voting with reservations, understanding that they're part of DTS's overall policy, right? I think my concern is that generally, you know, who's going to get them, right? Which communities are going to get them? And again, you know, say it's communities in town who ideally should be the ones who are pushing out of cars and into multimodal transportation that's available. And then you have folks that live on North Shore that have, you know, it's not as practical to take the bus. And so when they drive into town, if it's all RPZ'd out, then it's going to be problematic, right? Or are we targeting, you know, or prohibiting lower income communities from accessing street parking in more affluent communities? Like, those are all questions that I think the introducers did a really good job of trying to sift out and ensure that doesn't happen. So I would just share that. So that's how I would vote, and that's also my preference for what happens.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Councilmember Cordero, followed by Kiaina.
Thank you. First off, I would like to speak on the history and how the start of the RPZ came about. You know, I was a council staffer going to Kalihi Valley Neighborhood Board, hearing about this at the very onset, and even up until 2021 or even 2022, I was very cognizant and actually opposed in the very beginning to RPZs. I was holding it in my committee, waiting and working with DTS to see if there's a way we can ensure that there would be I guess community input would take precedent more than council, because in the very beginning it would have been just council ordinance implementing these things without, without very much say from the full residents, but approval by the neighborhood board. So with that, you know, with, I want to say more than 5 years of opposing it, and I've never actually said that, but I think my actions of holding it in my former committee showed such, to the point where we are now, that we have worked towards something that I feel would be able to really take our little our under ideals and politics out of it, and to ensure that we heighten that community input. And passing this bill in this version with the transportation chair's version does not already enact RPZs everywhere. And you know, even though I'm the co-introducer, I was wanting to be very careful how we go about it. So my support of this bill did not come either easy did not come easy, but I am very much in support of where we are at this point. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I have 4 to recommit, 4 to pass out today. Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I just want to thank Transportation Chair Dos Santos Tam for all of his hard work on this. I do commit that I will be supporting this bill moving out of committee. And just because of the all of the various new discussions that have been raised, I know it's probably issues that you are familiar with. For me, I want DTS to put this in writing for me. Even if it didn't pass, I guess I want that one more shot. So I commit to you that I will be helping to move this out of committee to the full council meeting in October.
Thank you. Again, I have 4 to recommit, 4 to pass it out today, 1, 2, 3 possible no's. Is there a motion?
Chair, I'd like to
Councilmember
Kian. Offer a motion to recommit Bill 2023. Is that correct? Back to the Transportation Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Kiaina, for the explanation of our young people, what are you asking the chair to do?
Thank you, Chair. For those in the audience, we had a robust discussion about legislation relating to restricted parking zones. In Kalihi right now, there is a pilot project, and through this measure, we were trying to give authority to the Department of Transportation Services to be able to look at other areas around Oahu to also have the right for restricted parking zones. And we are debating about the parameters for what it should look like. And I have to tell you, if you were here from the beginning, this is really what democracy is all about, because we all understand what the issue is, but we may differ right now on moving it forward. So this motion that I'm making is so that we have one more bite at the apple, because if we were to pass it today, it would be final passage. What we are asking for is that it be recommitted back to the Transportation Committee one more time for consideration of all of the issues discussed today. with the intent to bring it back to full council for final passage in October.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk and attorneys, do we need to take testimony on a motion to recommit? We took testimony on, no, according to Dwayne Pang. Okay, is there anybody who'd like to testify on this motion to recommit? No from Natalie Iwasa. Mr. Clerk, any further testimony?
No further testifiers.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. This is on the motion to recommit.
Voting now, Chair.
Okay, Cordero is a no. Any further discussion?
Are we going to do a roll call on this?
Karu.
Yeah, we should. Ready to vote? Okay, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
No.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
No.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Talba?
No.
Councilmember Tupola?
No.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 ayes, 4 noes.
Thank you. CR 237 and Bill 20 CD2 has been recommitted to the Committee on Transportation. Members, we do have nothing left. Let's close this out, take a recess, then we can acknowledge the baseball team. Is that all right? Okay. On the bottom of page 24, unfinished business. There being no unfinished business or no new business, moving to page 25. There's also no items for the Committee on the Whole or executive session and announcements. Members, any announcements? Councilmember Tolba.
Just wanted to say happy birthday to staff member Malia Zimmerman.
Oh, happy birthday, Malia.
Hey, Maria.
Any other announcements? Seeing none, Vice Chair Kia Aina for the motion to adjourn.
I move that the meeting stand adjourned until Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 at 10 a.m. at Kapolei Hale.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any objections? Seeing no objections, the council stands adjourned until Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 at 10 a.m. at Kapolei Hale. Don't leave, folks. Council member Say.
For us from the Hawaii State, from the